What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Heritage Radio Network is supported by Visit Ithaca, where great minds meet the great outdoors. Check them out at visitithaca.com. Ithaca is known for outstanding dining. And here's a word from one of those great local businesses.
My name is Kukwa Jibodi Yomepe, and the name of the restaurant is Asempe Kitchen. I started out at the farmer's market, and the reception we received was so overwhelming that I thought it made sense to stay in the area. My goal so far has been to create some space for everybody who feels disenfranchised or feels like they're not represented to come together and have a place to be. So we have been working really hard to be more than just a restaurant. So like a place to just rest, get some really good food, and maybe some good conversation. We have community tables, and I kept the communal tables because of the way I feel about building community. The food is mostly vegetarian. It's from West Africa, mostly from Ghana. I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa. I've been in the U.S. about 30 years. On Sundays, we do a brunch, and during brunch, we offer meat as an option to folks who eat meat. I'm very much a purist when it comes to the food. I like to offer people the authentic, stuff.
To plan your next trip or to find out more information, go to visitithaca.com.
Welcome to Pizza Quest. I'm Peter Reinhardt. And welcome back to Meathead, the acclaimed author of the award-winning 2016 book, Meathead, The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling, and the founder of the immensely successful website and newsletter, AmazingRibs.com. We'll get into all that in a minute, but first I want to congratulate him for the release of his newest book, The Meathead Method, a barbecue Hall of Famer's secrets and science on barbecue, grilling, and outdoor cooking with 114 recipes. And I'm holding up a copy of the book for those who are on the video version of this. For those who are just listening, we're going to talk about this book in a second.
And you're going to hold that up through the whole interview, aren't you?
I'm as long as my arm doesn't give out.
That's the ticket.
Welcome back, Meathead. It's been like 2 years since your last
Peter, I'm giving you grief, but I should be going over to my shelf. I've got at least 4 or 5 of your books. You have taught me so much. When we first met many, many years ago at a book fair in Georgia.
That's right.
I had fear of flour. And I have since learned how to make pizza and a couple of kinds of breads, but I'm kind of focused on meat and veggies too. In the warm weather, it's veggie season. But I count you as a great resource and someone that I lean on heavily for when I need help with my fear of flour.
Well, I appreciate that so much, and we kind of have a nice mutual admiration thing going between us because we keep coming back together every chance we get, and I visit with you in Chicago when I can. And but your universe seems to be expanding like the Big Bang. Some of our listeners will remember you from your earlier appearances here, but for those who are new to Pizza Quest, we're going to go back and recap your journey in a few minutes. But first, I want to ask you this. For those who already own a copy of your first book, Meathead, The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling, what are they going to learn in your new book, The Meathead Method, that they didn't already know?
Aha! Well, I'm devoted to both the culinary art and the culinary science, and I'm kind of known as a culinary geek. I think there's a real movement in the culinary world of chefs to understanding the physics and chemistry of cooking. Of course, as a baker, your entire career is founded on physics and chemistry. But people who cook meat and vegetables really don't normally think about it in those forms. And there's, I think, a number of, look, Alton Brown, who wrote the foreword to my new book.
I know. It was what a coup, and I
Yeah.
love seeing it. I'm going to read in a minute. I'll read a little excerpt from
Thank you.
his intro because
And then there's Kenji Lopez Alt and Christopher Kimball and
and you got the
Chris
guys
Young
from the modernist cuisine guys.
there's
These are
just
the
a
people
whole
that have
bunch
brought
of
science
people
and
out there,
craft.
Guga and those guys who are really into asking why and how. And so both my books are structured similarly. They're two halves. The first half is a textbook. Hopefully, it's not as boring as your high school chemistry and physics textbooks because it explains what happens when meat hits fire, what happens when smoke lands on food, what is smoke, what's in it, and answers all these questions. And I'm known as a mythbuster because I learned to grill from my dad, and my dad learned from his dad, and his dad learned from his dad, and I think that's the way most of us learn about grilling and smoking is it's passed down. And a lot of that we have learned because food science has advanced rapidly in the past 20 years. We've learned that there's a lot of mythology in food science and that a lot of what we thought to be true isn't true. And it starts with, just the ubiquity of digital thermometers.
Right.
A medium rare steak is at its most tender and most juicy between 130 and 135 Fahrenheit. Just that alone is a massive breakthrough.
Right.
So the old book covered all the old book. The first book, which I still, it sold 250,000 copies.
It's unbelievable.
Now,
and
as
when
a
you say the
cookbook
old
author-
book, it's still less than 10 years old, but it does seem like, so much has happened between then and now.
It's still chugging along on Amazon, and it's become something of a standard. Somebody just sent me a picture today of the Harvard bookstore. They have a shelf of all their staff members' favorite books, and there it is.
Fantastic.
Somebody else, a barbecue restaurant, sent us a picture of a stack of books that influenced their cooking, and there it is. It's become something of a standard, and it lays the foundation for the classics, ribs and brisket and chicken and burgers and steaks. The new book, The Meathead Method, is focused more on methods, on techniques, on ways of doing things, and it introduces some fun alternatives too. Can I share one or two, or do we have
Of course,
time?
absolutely.
Okay. Everybody who's listening, if you like fried chicken, raise your hand.
All right. Everybody
Peter.
loves fried chicken.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But you don't do it at home very much, do you? Because it spatters all over the countertop and all over the range top. It gets on the floor, sets off the smoke alarm, and then you're sleeping on the couch. It's a real mess.
So you run out to Popeyes or to Chick-fil-A instead.
Right. When you get it home, it's soggy and cold.
Right.
It's barbecue.
Yeah.
You go out to your gas grill. It's easier on a gas grill. You can do it on a charcoal grill, but you go out to your gas grill and you turn one burner on high. You get a Dutch oven, set it on top of that burner, put 2 inches of oil in it, and then you get your chicken and you roll it around in some flour and drop it in the oil. And you get the oil up to about 350, 375. That's your magic number.
Uh-huh.
And it's fantastic. It comes out of there as good or better than anything you get from a restaurant. I mean, if you want to fiddle with you could use the cornflakes, as some people do, or whatever you want to roll it around.
You mean for the coating and all? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people do Cheetos. And then when it's ready, you just take it out and sit it on the other side of the grill where the burners are off. And it'll just stay warm, and it'll drip, and there's no problem. You're not going to set your grill on fire. In a Dutch oven, there's no way you're knocking over a Dutch oven. There's no risk.
It's not like doing a deep fried turkey where you've got to have a big kettle with about 3 gallons of oil in it.
And it's a terrible way to cook a turkey anyhow. But yeah, I mean, now you do the same thing with onion rings, with fish. Do it on your gas grill.
Let me ask you this: as long as we're talking about the science of behind it, what is it about? What's going on in the science when you're deep frying anything, whether it's chicken or
Oh,
turkey or
isn't that
whatever,
interesting?
what is happening to that product?
Well, as always, there's a transfer of energy, and it's helpful to think of it as energy rather than heat. But there's a transfer of energy from hot oil. Water will only go up to 212 degrees, and it cannot go higher.
Right.
It then goes under a phase change where it goes from liquid to gas. But if you want to cook, if you want to fry, oil will go up to 400, 425. It depends on the type of oil you're using. But in that 350 to 375 range, that's your optimum temp for deep frying just about anything. So that hot oil starts to transfer into the chicken, but the chicken has been coated in flour or breadcrumbs or a combination of the two. Some people soak it in buttermilk or egg. But in any case, the transfer goes on. And one of the things that's interesting is if you notice when you start to fry, there's a lot of bubbles that come up.
Right.
That bubble, meat is about 75% water. Water evaporates at 212. So now you're at 350 to 375. Those bubbles are steam. That's water coming out of your chicken or your onion rings or whatever, and it bubbles like crazy, and it comes out. And the flour, and you can address this issue better than I can, the flour turns golden as it cooks.
Well,
and
that's what we want. That's what we crave.
Right, and depending on how you handle it, some people dunk it in eggs or milk products, dairy products. When you do, it tends to turn the flour darker. It comes out a little brownish. I like it golden, so I don't use egg and I don't use buttermilk. If I want a liquid to help the flour stick, I'll use pickle juice, which is really nice because it's salty and vinegary.
Nice. Yeah,
or
like a brine. Yeah.
I make a faux pickle juice. I just take some vinegar and water and salt and mix them up together and dunk in that. But those bubbles are all the water, and the energy transfer goes through. And that's another thing. If you've had really good fried chicken, and if you make it on your grill, I describe this in the book, it's not greasy.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yes, there's that oil, that fat. Oil and water don't mix. The meat is 75% water. It really can't penetrate very far into the meat. Now, it can get into the flour or whatever you've coated it with. If you use panko, or I've seen people do ground up hot Cheetos.
Yeah, that's a big thing these days. Yeah,
it sounds like fun. I haven't tried it yet. So
they do that with the spicy Doritos too.
But there's not a lot, and if you weigh the oil before you put it in the pot, and then do your frying and weigh it when it comes out, there's not a huge difference. It doesn't absorb a lot of oil, and if you do it right, it's not greasy.
It seems like the one way to make a greasy version of all that is if you don't have the oil hot enough.
Yes, and that's a significant point. You're down around 275, 300. More will soak in. The other way you get it really greasy is if you try the famous Nashville hot chicken, which is made by blending hot pepper with some of that oil. And then you pour it over the chicken. And that's, of course, it's a sauce made of oil. So that's going to be greasy.
Interesting. Now, I didn't even think about that. So, okay, so that's, so that kind of explains that why it's not greasy is because the oil's so hot that basically it's almost kind of like sealing the chicken.
Yes.
And then as the steam is escaping, it sounds like what you're really doing is cooking it from the inside out, because the steam is cooking the chicken as it escapes, right?
Yes. I got another one for you. Can I squeeze in another technique from from the book?
We have time. We can talk about everything.
Okay. Everybody who loves Chinese food, raise your hand. Okay. Everybody loves Chinese food.
It's Rosh Hashanah just passed, right?
Right.
What goes better from Rosh Hashanah than good Chinese food?
For the audience that doesn't get that joke, Jewish people are famous for their love of Chinese food.
I love Chinese food, yeah.
Yes. And they typically on Christmas night, they go out for Chinese. Right. Now, unlike fried chicken, a lot of us cook Chinese at home. It's not hard. You get a frying pan, you get the recipe, You get the meat, you chop up. Well, you got to do all of the prep in advance. Mise en
Right.
place, everything's got to be chopped and sliced and diced and ready because they move quickly. And it's good. You can make good Chinese food at home, but it's never quite as good as the neighborhood Chinese restaurant. Why is that? Well, if you've ever gone into the back end of the kitchen of a Chinese restaurant, and you can see it on YouTube, they have a wok which you can use, and they cook it on top of a bloody damn volcano.
Right.
I mean, that burner is really intense high heat. And what happens is when you throw the meat into a frying pan, the first thing that happens is the juices come out. Hold on one second. I'm being interrupted. There she goes. As a hobby, my wife and I train leader dogs for the blind.
Oh, nice.
And we have a brand new 8-week-old black lab in the house right now.
Sweet. Well,
and come here.
Yeah.
Carla, come.
We'll add the lab to our cast of characters here today.
She just came running into the office, turned
love
around, and ran out. I don't know what she's up to, but she's
cool.
probably eating something she shouldn't. But in any case, that high heat really sears and crisps the meat. At home, when you're making Chinese, when you throw the meat in the pan, the first thing you see is the juices come out and it starts to bubble.
Right.
You end up braising the meat, not frying the meat. It's still delicious because you've got all that sesame oil and hoisin and all those other seasonings and flavors, but you're not cooking it with the same amount of heat that the Chinese restaurant is doing. So is
that simply because we're afraid, or we can't, or our kitchens can't handle that?
Our kitchens just don't get that hot. You don't have a volcano, but you do. You do have a volcano, and it's not indoors. Go outdoors, and you know what a charcoal chimney is, folks? Yes, you do.
Absolutely.
Charcoal chimney looks like a big coffee can, and you pour the charcoal in there, and you light it from below, and it's the best way to start charcoal for a charcoal grill. I'm out there one day getting ready to grill up some steaks, and I'm starting the charcoal in my charcoal chimney, and its sun is going down. And I turn around and look at the charcoal chimney, and there's a blue flame coming out of the top of it, and it looks like the back end of an F-35.
Right.
Holy Toledo.
Yeah.
I run inside. I start chopping up the steak. I get my wok, and I set it on top, and it's almost 1,000 degrees in that wok.
So you're using the chimney as your heat source then?
Yes, use your charcoal chimney as the volcano.
I hadn't thought of that.
And you got to do the same thing. You got to get all your mise en place ready. You got to put it on a tray. You got to carry it out to the backyard, and you start your charcoal chimney. I just put the chimney in my charcoal grill, so that ash will be collected in the bottom. And there's one little trick that I describe in the book that's useful. Is charcoal chimneys have holes at the bottom for oxygen to get in.
Yeah.
The combustion gases come out the top. But when you've got a wok sitting on top, it traps the combustion gases on top of the charcoal and can smother the fire. So what you want to do is you want to get a drill and drill a few holes just under the top lip. It won't affect it. It's perfectly good. You can continue to use it. But you need to drill an escape route for the combustion gases so you don't smother the charcoal.
You drill
it also
the holes
allows
in the
more
wok,
oxygen.
in the wok itself, you drill the holes?
No, I'm sorry, in the charcoal chimney.
Oh, in the chimney. Oh, I see, at the top
in
of
the
the
charcoal
chimney.
chimney.
Yeah. I gotcha.
No, don't screw with the wok.
Okay.
You want to drill a couple of holes in the top, and the charcoal chimneys cost $30 on Amazon. You just drill a few holes near the top of the charcoal chimney so the combustion gases can escape. I just took out some tin snips and cut little V-shaped openings in there. But you just got to make an escape route for the combustion gases.
Those are great.
But you have a massive amount of energy. Your meats fry beautifully. Everything cooks really fast. You got to get takes a little because Chinese cooking, boom, 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 boom. Everything's got to go in.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah. You spend all this time doing mise en place and like 30 seconds doing the cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this leads me to the foreword that Alton wrote. And I would read just a couple of words from the foreword because, of course, it's delightful, but it also, kind of gets to the heart of it. He says, I am seriously not happy with the author of this book. When he sent me the most recent version, I opened it, and after reading about 10 pages, slunk in my office, retrieved the first 3 chapters of my own manuscript on outdoor cooking, and shredded it. Meathead got there first. So then he goes on, and then at the end of the next paragraph, he says, the Meathead Method is his grand opus, and honestly, probably the only book on outdoor cookery that you'll ever need. It doesn't get any better than that, right?
No, and Alton Brown. I mean, he's a god in my world. Um, and he's one of these new culinary geeks. I mean, if you've ever watched his show or gone to his stage presentation, which is fun, I've done 2 of them.
Yeah.
He's into the physics and chemistry and what happens when you cook, and he's a showman. He demonstrates it beautifully. And to have him say such kind words. When I asked him if he would write the foreword, he said, well, I only do $1 a year. Send me the manuscript. And he wrote the foreword.
That's fabulous. And and in addition to Alton, on the back of the book, you've got, like you said, so many endorsements from people who kind of represent what Alton did. I think for American cookery is he really popularized food and science together. That made it possible for books like Modernist Cuisine and Kenji Alton, Lopez Alt, to have books that followed up on that. He paved the way.
Kenji, by the way, wrote the foreword to my first book.
To the first book, and he was just getting started back then, and now he's the new Alton Brown, so to speak. You got Harold McGee giving a quote. Harold is the godfather of all of this. Even Alton, everybody says, when in doubt, go to McGee. And so he's sort of he's the Socrates.
Well, he's a real food
movement.
scientist.
Yeah, and it's credible. And then a few other well-known people, the folks who did Modernist Cuisine, both Grant Crilly and Chris Young chimed in. And then famous Dave Anderson, when in terms of barbecue, right? The America's Rib King and the Barbecue Hall of Famer. He says, wow, this is one of the most incredible books on barbecue and grilling I've ever read. And believe me, I have read every book on barbecue and grilling ever written. So yeah, famous Dave is a legend in his own right. So this is you got a bunch of these kinds of endorsements that we don't really need to keep harping on that because it says it all.
That's enough. But
the point is
you were
that
asking about how it's different. I focused on methods,
how
and
do you
I talked
top
about
the first book. Yeah,
I talked about fried chicken and stir fry. I teach a lot of new methods, and also I get outside the standard barbecue box. I mean, I use a lot of miso and gochujang and Spanish and French and Italian ingredients and techniques and. So I'm trying to show what I have always said is true, and that is anything you can cook indoors, you can cook outdoors, only better. And so I've tried to transfer a lot of these classic French and Asian techniques to the grill and the smoker, and it's just a lot of fun. Can I share one more that's really timely?
I think the more you share, the happier our listeners will be.
If you have a garden and you're growing cherry tomatoes, you're probably right now swimming in cherry tomatoes. One cherry tomato plant will,
produce
about a quarter of a bushel. You just can't use them all. So don't worry about it. Use what you want on your salads, on your focaccias, whatever. Take those cherry tomatoes and poke a couple of holes in them with a very sharp knife or a toothpick or something, and throw them on a smoker. Now, if you don't have a smoker, it's very easy to set up a grill so it can do smoking. And we discuss how to do that. But you throw it on a smoker at a low temperature. Keep the temperature down. You don't want to cook these cherry tomatoes. You just want to dehydrate them, because if you think about a cherry tomato, it's almost as sweet as a grape. And it's almost as tart as a grape. In fact, it's got very much the same component structure as a grape has, only it's a different flavor. It's a tomato flavor. Well, I want you to throw them on the smoker and dehydrate them until they're like raisins. Don't let them get hard. Let them get soft like a raisin, and they'll absorb some smoke, and they're unbelievably tasty. They're phenomenal. Throw them on a salad, stuff them in a focaccia. Hey, there's one for your next book, Peter. A focaccia with smoked cherry tomatoes.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
About
They're
how long
fantastic.
do you have to how long does it take to get them to that state?
It can, depending on the temperature of your cooker, of course, it can take 3, 4 hours or more. And you got to keep an eye on them. You don't want them, because if you let them go too long, they'll get hard and crunchy. And they're
Uh-huh.
okay when they're hard and crunchy, but you want, basically, you're making raisins. You're making cherry tomato raisins. And boy, I tell you, you could bake them into a loaf of bread just like you would raisins. And make raisin bread with them.
Yeah.
And
But they're smoky too then.
the smoke, you can do it without smoke too, by the way. If you have a dehydrator, you can just throw it in a dehydrator. But the smoke flavor really takes it to the next level. And you know what we do? We make a batch of them, and then I just throw them in a Ziploc bag in the freezer, and they go all through the winter. They last all winter long.
Just like raisins, they're there when you need them.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's a great trick. Well, you know, we mentioned Famous Dave, who's the Barbecue Hall of Famer. You're a Hall of Famer yourself.
I am.
Tell us a little bit, what is the Hall of Fame of barbecue, and how many members are there?
It's in Kansas City, and the Kansas City Barbecue Society and a few other organizations down there decided it would be fun to honor those of us who have made great influence in the world of barbecue. And somebody down there thinks that I fit in that mold. There's 40 living members of the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And yes, famous Dave Anderson is among us. Tuffy Stone, Myron Mixon.
I was going to ask you about Myron because we've had him on the show in the past, and
he's tremendous.
He comes through Charlotte a lot. So
and then there's another 30 or 40, I don't know how many precisely, who are no longer with us. People who founded great barbecue restaurants or invented great grills and stuff. The guy who invented the Weber kettle is in there, and so it's kind of cool. Well,
it's rare because there's not a lot of you. I mean, this is like there's fewer of you than there are in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
This new book, I talk about combining sous vide with grilling and smoking. Sous vide is a really interesting technique. When I first started talking about sous vide Q, which is what I call it, years ago, nobody knew what sous vide is. I'm guessing that a large percentage of your audience does now. But sous vide is a technique where you put something in a zipper bag and submerge it in water so that it pushes all the air out. And then you heat the water. You got a gadget that goes into the water and warms the water to whatever temperature you want. So if you're doing a steak, for example, and you want it medium rare, you set the heater to 130, 131, and you stick it in the water, and it'll warm the steak up to 130, 131, but it can't go a penny higher. It can't go because the water is the controller. So you can't overcook your steak anymore, and it's perfect. And you can just leave the meat in there for hours. Some foods you actually want to leave it in there overnight because it makes them more tender and breaks down connective tissue and so on. But in any case, I teach sous vide Q in the new book. And
nice.
That's a lot of fun.
Now people can get, for a pretty low price, they can get a immersion circulator that can create the sous vide experience without a lot of expense.
Yes, the immersion circulator is the technical name for the heating element that you put in the water.
It gets it to the exact temperature you want.
It looks like the tube you take out of the center of a paper towel.
Yeah.
Roll.
Right.
It's about
or
that
like a little
size.
immersion blender, sort of.
Right, and you just stick it in the or an immersion blender. You
Yeah.
just stick it in the water, and it brings it up to temp, and you can drive it. You can control it from your smartphone or your computer. But it's a cool cooking technique, and when you combine it with grilling, because when you take it out of the bag, it's butt ugly. Because it's tan and hasn't had the Maillard reaction that you get when you subject meat to high temperatures. So you take it out.
And that's where the magic happens, is at which is going to lead me into another question in a minute. We'll talk about reverse sear. But cooking it first getting it to the right temperature and then getting the caramel.
Sous vide Q is the original reverse sear because you're warming the meat to a temperature. Then you take it out, and a lot of people throw it in a cast iron pan to sear it or on a grill. I like to sear it, and another one of the methods I talk about, again, the charcoal chimney. That charcoal chimney pumps out a ton of energy. So I just put a grate on top of the charcoal chimney. And when the meat comes out of the sous vide, it goes on top of the charcoal chimney. A minute or two on either side, and that's all you need. You have an
Wow.
incredibly great sear.
This charcoal chimney idea is it? I hadn't ever thought of that until you told us about it today. So for that alone, the price of admission today, there's
It's a compact grill.
yeah,
It's a high temperature grill.
super high. Yeah. So one of the greatest things I've ever tasted in my life, and I still think about the first bite I had of this at Pizzeria Basta in Boulder, Colorado. Kelly Whitaker, who's been on the show a few times with us, makes a 72-hour sous vide brisket that he gets to the point where it's like butter, and then the way he finishes it off is he uses a wood-fired brick oven. He gets it up to about 900 degrees, and then he just flashes it in that 900-degree oven, and it comes out beautifully caramelized and yet melts in your mouth. And I just haven't stopped obsessing about that ever since I first had it.
A couple of things I want to tell you about. But let's just forgive me for doing a little course correction. Meat doesn't really caramelize, and a lot of chefs talk about it. What happens is a different reaction called the Maillard reaction, and you know about Maillard reaction because
so Maillard you're saying is different from what we think of as caramelization.
Right, caramelization is usually sugars.
Sugar.
Maillard reaction is protein and amino acids.
Got it.
So when meat turns brown, it's not caramelizing. A lot of chefs say that it's no big deal, but
it's kind of like a metaphor.
Now, what you do when you work with flour is flour indeed will caramelize because there's sugars in there and starches convert to sugars, but meats don't. There may be a tiny bit of sugar in a meat, but not much.
And there's also a little protein in flour, so you get a little Maillard reaction in addition to caramel. Okay, I see. So that's good to separate the distinctive processes.
They're two different processes. They're related. They're similar. They have similar outcomes, but technically they're different. Now, you mentioned I just did a seminar at Weber headquarters with brisket, where we did 3 briskets cooked sous vide to different temperatures, 155, 175, and 200. And we did them sous vide. And now at 135, we did the lowest was 135. It comes out medium rare, like a steak. But if you do it for 24 hours, it breaks down all the connective tissues, and it's just as tender as low and slow smoked brisket.
But it still looks like it's medium rare, even
it looks like a steak. Yeah.
And it never gets above that temperature.
And the 155 is delicious too. So this technique, and I talk about sous vide Q. In fact, here's something fun for you. We mentioned that I'm a member of the Barbecue Hall of Fame. I have been nominated to the Sous Vide Hall of Fame.
I didn't know there was one.
So I may be a double dipper. I don't think anyone else can make that claim yet. So
you're going to be like one of those guys on Saturday Night Live that gets a jacket because you'll be a 5-timer.
Yeah, right. I gotta have medals.
Yeah, that's cool. That is so cool. So there's a Sous Vide Hall of Fame as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, you got to start. It's time for you to start a Pizza Hall of Fame.
I guess people like Ferran Adria would be in the Sous Vide Hall of Fame.
Yes, right? He is indeed.
Heston Blumenthal and people like that. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. That's another. You're going to start hobnobbing with with the biggest and the brightest.
When are you going to start the Pizza Hall of Fame?
Well, I believe there is something like that. I'm not in it. I wish I was. But,
well, it's not.
But some of our guests have been. We'll have to.
If you're not in it, it's not legit.
Well, they have different names for them, But the Leo Spazzeri, who's also a Chicago guy, one of your neighbors.
Yeah.
He hobnobs in that world, and so we'll get him and John Arena and some of those guys to talk about the Hall of Fame. And I don't know if there's one Hall of Fame, because then in the pizza world there's still a little bit of territoriality. Most of it in Italy, in different parts of Italy, saying no, we got there first. But they all have their heroes and their hero figures. So I'm pretty excited about hearing more about the Sous Vide Hall of Fame. You mentioned earlier, that you're well known for being the myth buster, and I know that when you do presentations, to the public, you talk a lot about sort of busting some of those myths. Before we run out of time today, because we're just flying through stuff, I'd like to maybe just give us one or two other famous myths, and then I want to talk a little bit about what's going on your site on AmazingRibs.com. And I say .com because if anyone wants to find it, you got to remember to put .com in there, AmazingRibs.com. But within the AmazingRibs.com universe of with hundreds of thousands of people, there's a very nice little community of people called the Pitmasters Club. So I want to talk about that. First, let's do a couple myth busts, and then let's talk about the Pitmasters.
Well, the number one myth we've run into all the time is thermometers. They're vital to good cooking nowadays. We mentioned that a steak is at its most tender, most juicy between 130 and 135. We know this because we have machines that can measure how tender it is and how juicy it is. And people shy away from thermometers because they think, well, here's a good example. This is the world's best digital thermometer.
You're holding up a beautiful digital
It's called the
thermometer.
Fireboard,
The Fireboard.
and it will give you a precise measurement in 1 second within 1 degree. It also has a little connector at the back where you can include a cable, and it talks to your computer and your smartphone, and it sells for 150 bucks. This guy here is 15 bucks and is really good. It takes 5 seconds to give you a reading, and it's within 2 degrees of accuracy. And it's made by a company called Thermopro.
Now,
There,
as long as you're mentioning these brands, I'm going to mention that you don't sell these you don't make money by selling in these
No,
products. You
no.
just tell people about them.
Yeah, we have a review process. We have Max Good, who is full time testing grills and smokers. We don't sell any of them. We tell you where to buy them. And we have an electrical engineer who reviews and tests thermometers, and we don't sell any of them. We tell you where to buy them. I'm old school. I went to journalism school in college, and I am very cognizant and aware of conflicts of interest. I know the modern internet doesn't work that way, but I'm just an old fart, and it's going to work that way until I'm gone.
Well,
But in any case, people worry that if they stick their meat with a thermometer, it's
yeah.
going to dry it out. Um, an 8 ounce filet mignon has 6 ounces of water in it. If you stick it 10 times, you might lose a half a teaspoon. When you throw that filet mignon on the grill, you're going to lose 10 to 20% of water just by evaporation and what we call drip loss. Stop worrying about it. Use your digital thermometer, not only to get the food done at the optimum temperature,
yeah.
but also for safety's sake. There's been a number of cases of pathogenic bacteria like salmonella in poultry. Chicken is particularly risky. Consumer Reports did a research project a few years ago. They tested 300 chicken breasts, and 90% had pathogenic bacteria. But if you cook it to a safe temperature, 160, 165, you kill them all. And so it's perfectly safe. You don't want to send grandma to the hospital on Memorial Day or 4th of July. Use your digital thermometers. If you don't have a good one now, go to AmazingRibs.com and look them up and find one that's in your price range. And we link you to where you can order them. And the other thing is you need a decent thermometer on your grill. That dial thermometer on the top of your grill
Yeah.
is measuring the temperature of the dome, which is fine if you're going to eat the dome, but the meat is down below, and you got to
Right,
know what
right.
temperature the meat is experiencing. So there are thermometers that will temperature that temp the meat. Go get good thermometers.
So, but you mentioned that chicken, you need to cook chicken to like 160 to kill any, pathogens, but you don't cook meat to 160. To get a medium rare, you said cook to 130, let's say.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what should we be worried about pathogens
Yeah,
in
there's
beef?
they're different. Most pathogens cannot penetrate deep into meat. They're too big. Um, uh, the meat is essentially its own barrier. But
Okay.
the
So,
way chicken is handled and processed, after it's plucked, there are holes and gaps that bacteria can get in, and it's often dunked in cold water to chill it, and so pathogens can sneak in that way. It's thin. So it needs to be treated differently than a steak. I mean,
Okay.
USDA says I think 145 is the is what they recommend. If a steakhouse cooked all its steaks to 145, they go out of business in a week.
Well, I want to circle back to something you said earlier about when we were talking about sous vide and cooking, in a sense from the inside out. What another myth that we've talked about in the past with you is that throw the steak and sear it at the very beginning and then try to finish it off after you've seared it. Get the sear first. You've always advocated get the sear last.
Yeah, that all your cookbooks, all the cookbooks I learned to cook from, particularly those cooking indoors, you sear the steak in a cast iron pan or a frying pan, and then you slip it in the oven and finish cooking it. What happens then, and we're doing a little physics here, the energy enters the steak from the outside with the hot air. And as it enters the steak, well, first of all, if you sear it in a pan, there's three kinds of energy when you're cooking. There's conduction energy, which happens from hot metal, and your hot pan has a lot of conduction energy. There's convection energy, which is just warm airflow. And then there's infrared energy, which comes from glowing coals or flame. Now, this is true for both indoors and outdoors. But think about this. Go to your oven and turn your oven on to, say, 200 degrees. When it gets up to 200, open the door and stick your arm in. You can do this. It's not going to burn all the hair on your arm off. It's not going to make you scream in pain. 200 degrees, you can hold your hand in there for a few seconds or maybe even a minute. Now, put your hand on the side of that oven, the interior. When you get back from the hospital,
Yeah, right.
you'll understand that 200-degree metal conducts a lot more energy than 200-degree air because they're both 200 degrees. So
Yeah.
the typical method for searing or doing a steak has always been you put it in a hot pan where you've got that hot metal, which will sear the steak rapidly, and then you slip it into the oven where the warm air will finish cooking it. And what you end up with is a dark brown crust from the Maillard reaction, then a layer of tan, then a layer of pink, and maybe a thin layer in the center where it's perfectly medium rare. But if you reverse the process, if you start it in the oven or on a grill, you set up your grill in two zones. One side is very hot. The other side has no flame, no charcoal, and it's very low. And you cook with a convection slow. What happens is it slowly warms the meat gently, and the interior gets up to almost perfect temperature, and then you move it over either into a cast iron pan or right over the infrared from the glowing coals or the flame, and you get your sear there. Then you have a great dark crust, and the center is edge to edge perfect. Basically, what we're doing, and this is an important concept, is you're cooking the outside and the inside separately and differently.
Uh-huh. Interesting is right. And the result, of course, is you're going to get steak the way you really want it.
Yes.
Well, and of course, there's a whole lot more, about all these aspects of cooking that's in the new book, The Meathead. I promise. I try to hold it up as long as I could. My arm,
It's heavy.
My arm got a recharge. I'm holding it up again. The Meathead Method, for those who are watching. But before we run out of time, I want to share with our listeners how they can participate with you directly, because a lot of people can get the free information that you make available to hundreds of thousands on amazingribs.com. But what if they want to be in community with you and some of the other hardcore?
Well, the website is divided in two parts. We have the free part, which has over 2,000 pages of recipes, product reviews, science, myth busting, all kinds of great information. That alone is brilliant, and it's free. But we have a second part called the Pitmaster Club, which is members only. It costs $35 to join for a year, and there's a lot of cool stuff in there. We've got over 120 instructional videos. We were talking about the importance of cooking to the right temperature. This temperature guide with over 90 temperatures sells for $20 on Amazon. You get one of those free. There's 7 free ebooks that I've written. There's just a whole bunch of great stuff, but it's a community. It's not just me preaching at the audience. It's the members sharing information, advice. So they'll get into debates. They'll talk about, well, what do you think of the new Hasty Bake? It just came out. Is it any good? Yeah, Hasty Bake's pretty good, but I dislike this feature of it. It's and you can take a 30-day free trial, but if you buy the book, there's a little red disc in the corner, and that'll give you a 60-day free trial membership.
Oh, I see it. It's right on the cover.
Yeah. 60. Keep holding it up. It's a 60-day free trial membership. We don't ask for your credit card, so we're not going to ding you after the 60 days. So you might want to go in there and try that out. It's really cool, and the members are really talented. They share pictures and recipes.
So there's that sense of community. How many members are there in the Pitmaster Club?
There's around 15,000 right now.
Well, that's substantial group.
Yeah.
And are there meetups?
There have been. We tried to do a formal meetup for the whole group in Memphis, and then this thing called COVID hit, and that That kind of ruined that
for everybody.
But a lot of them get together on their own. A lot of them say, okay, next month we're going to a restaurant in Austin, Texas. Let's all meet there, and they do. They meet in Austin.
So they can meet without you. They'll say Meathead's not going to be there, but we're going to be there.
Oh yeah. There've been these meetups around the country with the members starting them up. It's nice. A lot of fun, and we have giveaways. There's up to $3,000 grills and smokers every month. We give away prizes to members. It's really cool.
It's kind of a cool, it's like we call it in the pizza world, we call them I call them the fire freaks, the pizza fire freaks, and we don't have a club per se. I mean, the people are just there, but we haven't. That's what that would be the next thing I got to talk to you about. How do I formalize that and put them into an organized group that can communicate with each other directly. So the Pitmaster Club, that's something that you can learn more about. Again, go to AmazingRibs.com for all that, for the free stuff and a gateway to the inner circle, so to speak. The book itself gives you that 60-day free trial membership, so you can find out for yourself if it's something that's for you. And it just keeps growing for you, man. It's just like
and Peter, we have a little bit on pizza in there. I dare not step into your turf with any degree of expertise
in the new book?
Or authority. But there are two types of pizza that we cook outdoors, what I call pizza on the grill and grilled pizza.
Yeah.
And I define them as differently. Grilled pizza being the kind that was created at Al Forno, I think. Basically, you just roll out the dough, throw it on the grill, flip it over, and then you top it while it's out there. It's grilled pizza. And it's marvelous. They do a beautiful job of it. You throw the sauce and the cheese on it. You don't pile it on too thick, and it comes out wonderful. And then there's pizza on. Then there's pizza done the traditional way, pizza on the grill. And I show you how to make a little pizza oven with some pizza stones and some bricks, and you can build your own little pizza oven on a gas grill. But golly, since we last talked. Look what has happened in outdoor pizza ovens.
Yeah.
We had Uni, and that was the standard bearer. And if you go to Amazon now and you search on pizza oven, you'll get over 1,000 backyard pizza ovens. Unbelievable. And some of them are really clever. There's all kinds of, there's one with a turntable that rotates the pizza. All kinds of stuff. If you love pizza, there's ways to make great pizza at home now.
And can those pizza ovens be adapted to also be meat ovens and vegetable ovens and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, they pump out a lot of energy. You can put a steak into a little pan and throw it in those pizza ovens and broil them beautifully.
Well, once you know the science behind it, the how and the why of why it works, then you can adapt and be creative in your own right, which is what you've done. Is you got the science down, and then you figured out, okay, how do we deploy this science to get the best possible product? And that's exciting stuff. So, Meathead, thank you so much for all you're doing for this world. Congratulations on these Hall of Fame
Thank
uh,
you.
achievements, and mostly again for yet another book in your, what would you call it, the uva of Meathead. Do you see any other books in the future, or have you said it all?
I don't know. I have enough. I've done a lot. I went to journalism school. I'm a writer, and I did enough writing, and I've taught a lot of people who write for our website. And my instructions are is just sit down at your keyboard and barf up whatever comes to mind. And then you can go through and you can get rid of the stuff that doesn't work and shape it, because that's the beauty of a book, is that there's a beginning, there's a middle and an end, there's a progression. I can carry you through a process. When you come to the website, it's a great website, but say you go to Google and you search for how do I make brisket, it'll take you to our web page about brisket. And then it'll teach you a little bit about the Texas crutch. Then it teaches you about rubs, and you end up jumping all around, and it's not as organized and intelligible as a great book. So in any case, I wrote enough from this book for 2 books, and then I had to trim it down to 1. So I have enough
So there's
material
a book
for
in
another
reserve.
book. But I
Well,
don't know. I don't know if I have it in me.
I should also say, make note of the fact that these great photos in the book were taken by one and the same person. You were also, before you were a pitmaster, you were a professional photographer too.
Yeah, I did my master's in photography, and the photographs in this book are really, really good, I think. I'm very proud of it.
I was going to say, I was looking at the cover and I was saying, who is this handsome guy on the cover? Who took that shot? And then I right inside it said photographs by Meathead. So you're doing all your own photography as well. And one other thing I want to shout out is our mutual friend Bridget Binns was a contributor to this book. Can you talk a little bit about Bridget's
Yeah,
contribution?
Bridget, I really wanted to do creative recipes, and Bridget is a very creative chef. She, at the time, was living in Paso Robles. Did you know she has moved to Firenze, Florence?
No, I didn't know she had moved. I knew she was going to move, but I haven't talked to her since she made the move. We had Bridget on Pizza Quest about a year ago, talking about, she was kind of phasing out of the retreat that she
Yeah,
had
yeah.
in Paso Robles. So now she's now living in Florence.
Well, she and her husband Casey are struggling with some visa issues, and they may have to be confined to 6 months on and 6 months off. So she's still working with it, but I've been in touch with her in the past week, and they are ensconced in Florence and loving life in Italy. And I suspect they're going to be back in California within a year, and then they go back and forth.
Two
She's
very
a brilliant
creative
chef,
people.
and she was inspirational. We would have conversations where we'd say, "Okay, let's do ham," but we don't want to do the same old ham.
Yeah,
Everybody's done. What can we do different with
different.
ham? What kind of fun stuff can we do with ham? Well, maybe we should do something a little Asian, And so it was brainstorming, and she really was a good foil for me developing the new recipes.
Well, let me mention to the viewers, for those of you who want to access us, Pizza Quest, on our website and see the video versions of these interviews, we have a couple with Bridget Binns. So please put her name in the search window, Brigit, and all way back when we first started Pizza Quest, we did videos where we go out into the world, into the field, and we did a wood oven pizza festival in California. And Bridget, we have some great footage of Bridget and I cooking together, along with her husband Casey, who, by the way, most people, well, many people might recognize him. He's a recurring character on Star Trek. so he's an actor, and so anyway, we had a lot of fun cooking in wood fired ovens out in California. That's where I first met Bridget, and she's been on Pizza Quest a number of times since. So it's cool how our worlds all seem to be tied together in unique ways. So again, the book is called The Meathead Method. Look it up. Get it from your favorite booksellers. The Pitmasters Club is available to anybody, but certainly the AmazingRibs.com is available to everybody, and it seems like almost everybody is a member or has been a member at some time. And that's something you can just access. You don't have to necessarily be a member, but can you get on a mailing list where you get notifications?
Yeah, we have a regular email newsletter, and it's not a sales piece. It informs you of when we've done new recipes, new articles, new product reviews. It's informational.
Awesome. Well, Meathead, thank you once again for for joining us, for sharing your knowledge and your enthusiasm. It seems like the most important thing is you love what you're doing. And that's what Pizza Quest is really about, is finding people that have a fire burning in their belly that drives them on their quest. And thanks for sharing,
Yeah, Peter,
your piece of the quest with us.
we are brothers by different mothers, and it's always
That's it.
fun to talk to you. And you ask all the right questions, and look forward to seeing you somewhere down the road. I'm in
Definitely.
the Chicagoland area.
It's inevitable.
If you enter the Midwest, come visit.
I think the last time I saw you in Chicago, we went out for Ethiopian food.
Oh, that's right. We went to an Ethiopian
That's
meal.
right. Yeah. So it's not only about pizza and it's not only about barbecue. It's really about flavor and quest. So thank you again. Thanks for joining us. And thank all of you for joining us on Pizza Quest. Please keep coming back. We'll be back with new episodes every week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.